Tales of the Moorish Corsairs. Corsair, a privateer, one operating in the Mediterranean Sea after the Moors were defeated in Spain. The Moorish Corsairs became the scourge of the seven seas. The Moors had made Spain their home for 700 years, while bringing Europe out of its dark ages. Under the direction of Pope Alexander VI, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain had the Moors exiled from Spain with the help of England and France. After the Moors were vanquished and then banished from Spain, the Moors had moved into North Africa and established kingdoms. These kingdoms had names like Tunis, Algiers, and Morocco. While England, France, and Spain celebrated the expulsion of the Moors from Spain, neither of them counted on the vengeance of the Moors. The Corsair Ardith Bey, standing on the deck of his favorite and speediest galleon, is speaking to his childhood friend and confidant, Beto Bey. Ardith states, "It's been 2 weeks since we've taken the prize, Beto. I think, my friend, it's time to join the lesbians." Beto asked, "Which lesbians are you referring to, brother?" "Why, the Barbarossa brothers, of course, Moor." Beto said, "Brother Ardith, why give up our claim on these seas that we control? Does not any ship passing from the New World through these seas beg to be taken by us?" Ardith replies, "Yes, Beto, of course. But the true prize worth our blood lay in the seas, which Barbarossa has made his hunting ground. Several corsairs have already joined his fleets, and much prize is going to their homelands. Would you have our nation and our family starve, Beto, overfishing our pond?" Beto said, "Of course not, Moor. How do we find Barbarossa?" As Ardith was about to answer, a signalman called out, "Galleon, 90 degrees to port." At that call, the ship's company sprang into action. The galleon on which Ardith Bey stood was, before her capture, a Spanish galleon grande. She was outfitted with 60 cannons port side and 60 cannons on her starboard side. She had 4 cannons aft and 4 cannons on her prow. The Moor had modified his prize by installing 2 banks of oars on her sides, on her lower cannon decks. Each oar was manned by fit fighting men who would drop the oar and pick up their knives and scimitars and rush to the main deck to confront the forces on board. The refitted galleon was also outfitted with oversized sails, which turned her into a very fast dreadnought in a battle at sea. Beto saw that vessel. He stated to Ardith, "She's no merchant vessel, Ardith." Ardith replied, "She certainly is not." "Look at her colors, Beto. She is a royal ship of Rome." Beto said, There will surely be papal marines on board her, Ardith. Then let the flaming swords of our ancient forefathers wreak vengeance upon them. Hassan, the shipboard artillery commander, was standing waist-deep in the hatchway which led below decks to where the cannoneers awaited firing orders. From the hatchway he could signal the port side or the starboard side to open fire at the captain's command. On the main deck waited 150 heavily armed and ready to fight Moorish crewmen. Ardith said Moors. They still haven't learned to modify their cannons to reach us at this distance. Hassan, show them that we can reach them. At that moment, Hassan, the artillery commander, bent down into the hatch and signaled to the port guns to open up with a single salvo of cannon fire. Both masts of the papal ship were blown off, along with their crow's nest and the men who manned it. 2 volleys from the attacking Moorish galleon's portside cannons tore into the papal ship's starboard side, making her helpless in the water and crippling her starboard side guns. As the papal galleon tried desperately to defend herself from the fire she was taking from the Moorish galleon, one of her guns hit the main mast of the Moorish vessel, and it came crashing down to the deck below. Ardith, he told Hassan, signal the caravels to busy her while we make our way to meet her. While 6 of the 12 caravel vessels, which were more navigable and faster in the water, closed in on the papal ship to harass and busy her. The papal ship's complement of papal marines and Spanish soldiers, as well as the ship's guns, were focused on the smaller, more nimble crafts, which were harrying the papal ship's attempts to stave off the attack of the Corsairs' fast-approaching galleon. On board the Christian vessel, its complement of soldier protectors were engaged in ship-to-ship battles with the caravels. 2 caravels were coming straight on. They were coming on the galley from her stern. The papal marines began firing their muskets at the approaching caravels. The soldiers on the other 3 sides of the galleon were also busy, shooting at the smaller, faster crafts. As the Corsairs' galleon made her way alongside the papal ship, virtually unchallenged, the crew of the Moorish vessel made ready to begin boarding the ship. Ardith Bey, Beidho Bey, and their crew began a true Moorish assault on the papal ship. The papal marines who protected the stolen gold, jewels, and virtually the culture of the Incans, the Mayans, and the Aztecs. The treasures headed to the church in Rome. The troops were still forming to repel the emboldened Moorish raiders. Before the papal marines could assemble to repel the crews of the Moorish ship, they were under siege. Ardith Bey boarded the ship with his men, and they fought and slashed their way onto the ship from the boarding planks. At the same time, the swifter caravels had already begun launching their assault garrisons. onto the papal ship from all sides. The papal ship was helpless. Beto had engaged with a soldier who took a shot at him with a musket. The soldier missed. Beto didn't. Beto's scimitar came down from the right side of the man's neck and cleanly cleaved the man's head from his body. There were more than enough of the Corsairs' raiders on board to take effective control of the ship. The Corsairs' reserve troops, led by Hassan, the artillery commander, were made up of the cannoneers and the oarsmen from below decks. The sounds of scimitars striking the steel of cutlasses and swords, the sound and smell of muskets and pistols, and the sight of men's limbs separated from their bodies, the smell of blood on the decks, as with every bloody battle when the decks run red. Finding your footing in battle is always difficult and could cost one his life. Should he slip in another man's blood, it will surely mean his end. Every Corsair and crewman will live these visions forever. The sound and smell of gunpowder fill the air as the screams and sounds of dying men were diminishing. The clouds in the sky and the ocean seemed still as the fighting and the dying continued. When the fighting was done, 12 of the Moorish raiders had been killed during the boarding efforts and the shipboard battles. 70 others had been seriously wounded. The captain of the papal ship was Captain Polito. Captain Polito came from a naval family background. He became master of this papal galleon through large contributions from the Polito family to the church. Captain Polito was found hiding below decks in a magazine. Rasan, the signalman, sent word to the main deck for Ardith Bey to come to the magazine. Rasan said, "Captain, the master of this vessel has fortified his position here in this magazine." Just then, a shot from a pistol rang out. It was Captain Polito. "You won't have this ship, Corsair, until you have me." The ancient law of the seas states, an enemy vessel is not taken until her captain, her master, is taken or killed in defense of his vessel. The Corsair looked over his shoulder to the man standing behind him and whispered to him, "His rat hole is the wrong rat hole, Moor." In Captain Polito's haste to get away from the fighting on his decks, he had fled to the bowels of his ship and sought refuge in a magazine, a powder magazine. Ardith Bey had 2 of his men take a barrel of cannon powder and tap it. When it was tapped, the 2 men set the barrel in front of Ardith's foot. Ardith pushed the barrel across the magazine floor until it stopped right in front of Captain Polito's position behind dozens of barrels of gunpowder. The captain then heard a hissing, crackling sound, and then he began to smell the burning gunpowder. Then he realized that he had hidden inside the powder magazine.